Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to the final session of day 2 of Event Tech Live. Just a quick reminder, if you want to join the final roundtable discussion of the day, the best event app features to enhance your event, that has just kicked off now, so get over and join that roundtable session. But if you're here to join the main stage session, up next we have the evolving model of event monetization. So I'm delighted to welcome from C2 International, we're going to welcome Anik. Anik, are you with us?
Hi, everybody. Really happy to be here to talk about this crucial topic in our industry today.
Anik, you are very warmly welcome. Really looking forward to this. If you are ready to go, the floor is yours.
Start with a few hellos here. My name is Anik, so I run growth and partnerships for C2. I've been with the company for 6 years, almost 2 years now into a pandemic. That surely brought its load of challenges and a lot of challenges around obviously monetization and the evolution of the model in an environment where everything changed really quickly. So first, congrats to everybody that's still in the business, that's there, that's motivated, that wants to create the next phase of innovation in our industry. I think that's great. I'll be taking questions at the end of the call, at the end of the session. So really happy to answer and just exchange. And I think, what we want to say is we come here with a very humble mindset. We're super fortunate to be able to share today some of our insights, some of the things and case studies that we've dabbled with over the last couple of months, as well as where we see the future evolving in the short and midterm, but totally after the presentation. So I will be sharing my screen in a few seconds and start this. So this is what we're aiming for, right? We want to have some good events, some good revenues, and really ensure that we can keep our communities engaged and keep the perennity of the properties that we're operating. So a few words on C2. For those of you who don't know us, we want to connect people through creative experiences and compelling storytelling, and that's done to drive progress and growth. So we're really leveraging those two aspects, so storytelling and experiences, to drive this engagement and make sure that we get our partners and ourselves, our branded event, to evolve and drive progress. So one of the key things that remains is necessarily the content. So obviously at the heart of every event experience, the content experience is important. There's many ways that we can find in monetizing that content. For instance, this was in 2018 at C2 Montreal. It was Snoop Dogg, but it was presented by Canopy. So that was sponsored content right there. The other thing is environment design for total immersion. So that creates challenges when you go from live events through digital events, right? So how do we create that same strong sense of fabulous and emotion and inspiration through environment design? How do we take this from, a live concept and bring it into an event platform or a digital experience? And then, one thing we really strongly believe in is that we see a bit ourselves as like play scientists. So people need to have fun. People need to come together, to collaborate, to get their guards down, and really be open for that learning, that inspiration that's going to drive their own progress. So all of these elements have remained fundamentals in our creative pillars and approach into looking at different ways to keep monetizing events. There's a little video here that I'm going to play. It's dynamic. It's going to be for about a minute, and it's just to kind of get you in the mood. So let's start with where we're at now and what we see in terms of challenges. And as I said earlier, I think the biggest, how to say, the biggest light for us through this whole experience was really to find partners and clients that were willing to take some calculated risk with us, that knew that, you know, the way they engaged their communities, the way they got them to collaborate together, the way they monetized them was evolving at such a rapid pace that, you know, what we have thought would be a 5-year or 10-year digital transformation in our industry became a, you know, 12 to 18 months one. So it takes commitment from both the agencies, but also from, you know, the promoters of events and the clients who are supporting them and the partners who are supporting them, and even the participants who are buying tickets or are spending their time looking at content into those new virtual platforms. So I think one of the things that I feel has been so important has really been to nurture those relationships, have great communication, transparent, humble, and work together to define what will be next. But for sure, I mean, you know, everything went online at some point. Then we're into an hybrid world, and finding the right mix to monetize at the level that it was in the industry pre 2020 or 2019 has really been a challenge. You know, the cost of hybrid production, we're just out of our C2 Montreal flagship event. And, you know, hybrid is expensive. From a logistics perspective, it's hard too. You know, the cost of talented speakers has exploded, even if they're now speaking from their living rooms or office space, just like I am. It's easier to charge premium for ticket sales revenues. Hosting is not the same, right? So people who would spend top dollars to spend time with their clients at different industry events, you know, that kind of has changed and shifted into this new model. Then that whole notion of monetizing content and acting like a media is really a science, and it presents challenges. And a lot of us in the event industry weren't necessarily equipped from a talent perspective to react quickly and start monetizing content in the way that media would do. Then platform branding and visibility provides lower engagement. It's not the same than to have a booth. It's not the same as to have some really compelling activations at event where people actually live them. So how do we create branding experiences online that will nurture this engagement? And then networking, I think one of the biggest things, you know, digital has been great for expanding the reach of the audience, democratizing access to the content and to the experiences, but the networking, you know, finding that ROI, meeting that next business partner, it's just more difficult for now online. So I'll just talk about some of the things that we've done and some of the things that we've seen in the last couple of months that we feel have traction and that are really promising. So one of them is, you know, looking at platforms that will give you that higher experience. So we designed C2 Agora. Once again, it's been, you know, it's been challenging. It's been a new venture for us, obviously, but the premise has remained the same as what we were doing from an environment design in a live context. So how do we provide organic ways for partners to integrate content? How do we provide them with partner pages that will drive traffic towards, that are synced with the outside world of social media, that are, you know, beautiful and rich in terms of content, where they actually add value to the event participant? How do we build, like, you know, branding into this platform so that sessions can be presented, leveraging both multimedia assets as well as straight up like platform visibility? How do we enable the teams of our partners to actually engage directly with their potential clients? And how do we make sure that whatever content was consumed is accessible beyond the event time? Obviously, something that's great with digital is the freedom and the flexibility that it provides in terms of when and where you are when you consume that content. But how do we actually make it appealing? So all of that design approach, something we were really used to doing in a live format, has been completely flipped. But we really looked at maintaining the same triggers of learning, experience, and connecting through all of the design approaches that we've put together. I think from a pure, how do we make it happen perspective, I mean, definitely having the right talent is essential. And that's probably the name of the game right now. Like, tapping into this tech talent to drive compelling UX and making sure that, we use the best inspiration from platforms like a Netflix or, retail, where those experiences keep people within the environment, and make sure that we're hitting those targets of views and time spent on the platform, so that we can get, ROI for our partners. Video for C2 Agora. So as you see, I think we really tried to be inspired also by entertainment. So how do we provide that, compelling visual experience? And, the stage definitely is always something that's crucial and center in all events. And, exploring ways to create hybrid environments and content delivery that is engaging both for people that are on site and people that are online, is definitely going to be, something that's going to drive ROI actually for both, right? So you want to give a real reason for people to pay a ticket to come and attend an event, but you also want the online audience to feel engaged. This is something we tried. We don't think we're there yet. There's a bunch of stuff that we want to integrate, like AR and VR experiences and, really engaging kind of, formats online. But one way we tried this year was really to look at, bridging that world with speakers that were remote, interviewers that were live, and creating that experience where you could feel the interaction between both worlds in a live environment, so that there's a reason to actually connect at a certain time to live that. So that was an example with Mindy calling that was at her home, I guess, with someone that was an interviewer that was on the C2 stage. Activating partners has been challenging. And one thing we looked at was just like, okay, so how could we create that more engaging, connection experience? So we leveraged spatial networking. And our connection partner at C2 is RBC, a bank. And so, they presented that. They had some people there throughout the experience that could engage with various people that were coming around for playing with the lion, or just lounging or going at the beach. So this was just a playful way to leverage technology, to kind of spice up a bit the networking experience, and make sure that, partners that were looking for this deeper connection with the audience had a tool to do so online. Then it's also about new formats, right? So if you cannot have all of the speakers live, how do you provide opportunities, for partners to express their thought leadership, to showcase some of their new products, to talk about their innovations, and to connect with the audience in a meaningful way. One challenge that we had was, how do we give back some of that production to the actual partners while maintaining that very high level touch for the participants and the audience online. And so one of the format that we dabbled with an event that we're doing with Michelin that's called Moving On, it's on mobility, was to create formats that we called the tribune, where the time frame was strict, where the guidelines around how to incorporate some, multimedia assets were given, but where they also had the flexibility to present the content in the way that they wanted. So that achieved kind of two objectives. One of them was for the partner to have this authentic way to tell their own story, but also respecting the branding of the event to make sure that the audience didn't feel it was disconnected. And we use that as kind of like almost advertising-ish capsules that we would run before or after sessions where the partner actually had experts on. And then, at a broader level, that we think that, that the future and the power of convening really lies at the intersection of content, media, and experiences. And I think that's where a lot of our head is right now, is how do we make sure that we keep that heart of the experience, which is the event, as the catalyst, as the peak engagement moment that will nurture a broader ecosystem, through different formats, through different channels, different ways for actually people to consume that content, but also reach people where they are, how they, and when they actually want to consume it. So that's really where we're starting to dabble, and we've gotten talent that really comes from these different fields, so that the teams we're building are actually reflective of where we think monetization will go. So that's an example here, but basically it's with a partner that's called Rio Tinto, and we incorporated them into our, as a partner into our C2 flagship. And we really looked at how can we tell that story in a compelling way, leveraging those different channels. And it's an activation that actually lasts from 6 to 8 weeks, with multiple pieces of content being created, anywhere from, I'm trying to change slides, anywhere from, co-branded landing page, blog articles, social media, longer formats of video, speakership profiles. So really leveraging this peak engagement moment that is the event and expanding it beyond, but in a non-linear way, in a way that is rich and in a way that really complements the storytelling of the experience. Because of course, like, one challenge is it can't look like, advertising all the time. Like, it needs to be in line with the editorial line of the event. It needs to bring value to the participants for the partner to actually get something out of it from an ROI perspective. So this is really ways that we're exploring right now with really talented teams that we're trying to grow. But yeah, I mean, that's been exciting. So some, I wouldn't say like necessarily predictions, but some things that we think about that we think will, probably happen in the next few months. There's a lot written about, the return of corporate travel. We see it, like, people want to connect again. We are craving human connections. We are craving just getting dressed nice and going out and, sharing these great moments and emotions with people surrounding us. So we really think that there's going to be a big comeback in terms of experiences in the next couple of months. There's also going to be a shift, and I think this is one of the most interesting things, is how do you get those communities and start looking at, what makes sense online and what makes sense live. And we see that there's a shift right now in terms of premium hosting for smaller audience for live events, but keeping the tools and the reach and the democratization of digital content and digital events. That brings a bit of complexity because it means we're still in an hybrid mode. But really focusing on creating those rich moments where, you know, people can do business, can find new clients and new partners and new financier for their businesses, like really focusing on, you know, building that collaboration and these environments that will stimulate people getting together to, you know, drive progress and create their future. There's also definitely like the monetization year round. I think this is something that, you know, we were enabled to do in part because of you know, what happened with the pandemic. But this content, this way to to engage communities throughout the year is really something that we think will stick. And basically, it's kind of bridging that gap between events, experience, and digital marketing, and finding where brands can evolve to keep driving this ROI. The notion of presence is changing, so that is fascinating. You know, face-to-face value is meaning, but what is next face-to-face? You know, we have now technologists and a team that prefer to be online than to be live. So what will that look like? And, you know, we think that there's right now a lot of money to be poured into exploring those technologies, but they will happen fast. Like, let's just think about what Facebook, you know, announced a few days ago with Meta. You know, this will become a reality pretty quick. And brands will definitely want to engage and experience in that field. And as an industry, we'll need to be ready. And, you know, community. How do we keep being that catalyst? How do we leverage this peak engagement moment to provide some real values and create some strong ties with those communities? You know, we just think that if we focus on this, we invest and we learn and we listen, that we will have customers that will be willing to pay both in their time and with their money to, you know, attend those experiences and be there and support the various event organizers and organizations. So let's do it. You know, I think, you know, we need to take risks. Nobody knows the recipe. The book isn't written yet. So I think it's about collaboration. It's about openness. It's about dialogue. It's about, you know, dialing and finding partners and clients and talking to our audience, listening to them, and being able to evolve almost in real time, you know, to define what's next. So that's I think what it is. And, you know, it's chaotic and it's been hard, but at the end of the day, if we're having fun, we're passionate, and, you know, we are willing to take this risk and explore, like, I think those people with that mindset will be, you know, highly in demand as the industry picks up for the real life things. So that's the closing word. I hope some that are positive and inspiring. And that's it for today.
Super. Thank you so much, Anik. There, great presentation. Really, really interesting stuff there. We have got a question coming in the chat, so prepare yourself for this. So we've got Gilbert would like to know, are there specific verticals or demos, for example, age range of demographics, I think that is, e.g. age ranges within the firms you work with, where you have seen greater traction or adoption for the virtual platform use?
It really depends which program we're working for. So let's say, I'll take the example of our own event, C2 Montreal, just because it's not confidential, like I can talk about it. But, you know, we've seen with digital, a younger audience. Like, that has been actually one of the greatest things we've discovered, is that, you know, students or people younger in their career, you know, we used to have an experience that cost about like $2,000 to $3,000 to attend in person for 3 days. Now, you know, for a company to spend that kind of money on someone going to an event, you need to be at a certain level of leadership. So by having the possibility for people to attend the event for a smaller amount, like a $200 or $300, where they could consume the content, you know, after their work day or for an hour instead of taking a full 3 days, like, we've really seen you know, a younger audience They are extremely engaged. So that was fantastic. You know, we went from, I guess, a more entrepreneurial, you know, kind of higher executive audience that was there for the hosting. You know, they were there to take their clients out, to learn, to be inspired. But now this new audience, which is great because it nurtures the growth of our brand as well in time, you know, the perenity and the longevity that we will be relevant for if we can connect with those. So that's been one of the great finds. That and internationalization. So it hasn't been really industry specific for us, but it's been about reaching a broader audience in terms of geographic, because they don't have to travel necessarily, and then a younger one that are really engaged. So that's been great.
Super, thank you very much. And we've got Delphine just come in with a question. Very interesting point of view, and they would like to know more about virtual reality trial right now. And have you got any examples you can be sharing with us?
Virtual reality, we're exploring in different ways. We've done more AR at this point. We have someone in our team, Andy, that is, you know, probably far better in explaining exactly what we're doing, but in the terms of VR. But we've done a lot of AR. So finding ways to create moments, you know, within an experience that are, you know, triggered with AR. So to activate partners, we did something with TikTok in that regard. Same thing, you know, looking at ways that we can create holograms on stages. So, you know, we showed earlier that kind of speaker that was, you know, projected on a screen. The next version of that is to actually have like an hologram with someone that is there presently. So that's been more the things we've explored so far, concretely, but virtual reality is definitely on the radar.
Fantastic. And I know you briefly touched on collaboration in terms of experiences and moving forward. I've actually been delivering for the last 2 years virtual interactive experiences for people. And I've just taken a very different approach to you. Rather than going down the tech route, I've made it all about the audience and how we can play with that. So I would love to connect with you and have a further discussion if you were keen, just about how we can maybe collaborate and delight audiences, because I think there's a lot to discuss in there. But unfortunately, we are out of time for this session. So, Anik, thank you very much for joining us and showing us your view of what the future is going to be like. I know there's a few people in the chat who've been delighted by this, found it very interesting. So thank you very much for joining us on Event Tech Live this year.
Thank you, everybody. And just hit me up on LinkedIn, Anik Bourdieu, if you want to keep the conversation going, all about learning with all of you guys. Thank you, everyone.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much, Anik, there from C2 International. Like I say, if you want to get in touch with Anik, find her on LinkedIn or connect with the platform. The contact details will be on there. So there we go, ladies and gents. That was the final session of day 2 for Event Tech Live and the final virtual day until Friday, because tomorrow we are going to go fully hybrid. Yes, I'm going to get on a train in about an hour and a half. I'm going to head all the way down to London. And if you're joining us in London, it'll be absolutely fantastic to see you there. Come say hello. I'll be bringing you all the behind the scenes action if you are joining us virtually. And tomorrow, of course, and for Thursday as well, all the other stages will be going live. So it won't just be the main stage. You can come on, check out the orange stage, the purple stage, all the different ones. And you can customize your Event Tech Live experiences by choosing which session you want to watch. We will be broadcasting all the sessions. There won't be any networking for the next 2 days because it's all going to be done in person. But as I said, I don't want you to miss out. So that's why I'm going to go down, get all the behind the scenes action, take you round the show, hopefully meet plenty of the exhibitors and the speakers as well. Remember, if you are joining us in London, I've just got an email through with all the COVID requirements. Do make sure you've had your lateral flow test and you can prove you are COVID clear. Make sure you do bring a mask with you. We want to keep all our exhibitors and guests safe over the next 2 days as well. But it'd be absolutely fantastic to see you all there. So, ladies and gents, that is the end of day 2 then. Thank you very much for joining us today. If you have stayed through to the end, it's been cracking. Thank you to everyone who's participated and asked questions in the chat. Hopefully it has been a valuable day for you all. However you're joining us, whether you're in person tomorrow or online, I look forward to seeing you then. Have a good evening. See you all tomorrow.